Hello, everyone, and welcome to our weekly Power Lounge. This is your place to hear authentic conversations from those who have power to share. My name is Amy Vaughn, and I am the owner and Chief Empowerment Officer of Together Digital, a diverse and collaborative community of women who choose to share their knowledge, power, and connections. You can learn about us and join the movement at togetherindigital.com. Today, I'm excited to welcome and welcome you all to an insightful episode of the Power Lounge as we are going to explore a purpose driven living and authentic fulfillment through the lens of reinvention. Today, we are honored to have Yvette Simpson with us, a truly inspiring speaker, attorney, DEIB leader, and political strategist, someone who has allowed curiosity to inspire and lead her down many paths. Yvette is here to help us discover the essence of fulfillment by embracing self love, seizing opportunities, aligned with our true calling, and debunking societal norms that limit us. Through her wisdom, we will recognize our intrinsic value and the power to manifest our dreams into reality. She's the author of On Purpose, The Power of Authenticity and Intention, and the host of the fabulous The Power of Why podcast. Yvette's mission is to empower personal growth and a positive global change. Y'all, this is why we're already friends. We are actually looking across the table from each other in the same room. So everyone, please get ready to be uplifted, my friends, because the remarkable Yvette Simpson is in the room with us today. And we're going to be talking about living authentically and achieving purposeful fulfillment. Thank you so much for being here with us
Thank you for
today.
having me, Amy. I think we can fairly say that we're sisters now. I think friend doesn't quite capture. I think we're sisters. And so it's such a joy to be welcomed into this space with you to talk to your amazing audience about something that is really near and dear to me. So I hope we have an amazing conversation. And as always, if someone gets one nugget of wisdom or insight that helps them do things even a little differently, then I've done the right thing. And I feel proud of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I am right there with you, my friend, right there with you. So, this is one of the questions, honestly, of all the questions I have for you today that I was most excited to ask you about. And that is what were you like as a kid? And what did you want to be when you grew up?
So I was the kid who suffered from severe FOMO. I was the nosy kid, the inquisitive kid. So I've always been this way. So of course I'm talking about curiosity and asking questions. I was the kid that asked a million questions, right? Like if, you said the sky was blue, I'd say why over and over again. So I've been asking this question why my whole life. I was what my grandmother would describe as an old soul. She swore that I had lived on the earth before because I was just more adult than kid. When most people I was watching Nick at Night when I was like a kid. Like I'm watching like Mary Tyler Moore as a kid.
My favorite shows.
Who does that, right? So I was that kid. I was also the kid that like was bossy. So I was told that when I was 2 years old, the adults were up, and I used to want to be up with the adults. I was in their face. What are you talking about? I always wanted to know. But when it was time to go to bed, I was done. And so the adults were still up, and I would get up out of my bed and go back over, and I go to bed, go to bed. I literally told adults to go to bed. What in the world? So I always tell people who have children, your kids will show you who they are from the very beginning. Don't push that down, nurture that, because I am a boss now. I was meant to be bossy. I was meant to ask questions. It's what I do. And I was showing that really, really early. And so I was 8 years old when I decided I wanted to be a lawyer. And I think my 8-year-old brain, you got a lot of women, you got women in your circle. So I'll tell the story this way. You remember the I Want to Be books. We used to have those when I was a kid. It was, I want to be this, I want to be that. And I pulled out the book for I Want to Be a Lawyer. And I said to the universe, that'll be me. There's a guy standing in front of the judge. I said, that'll be me, but I'll be wearing a skirt. That was my 8-year-old way of saying, I'm going to do this. And I know that women can do it. I'm going to be a woman who does it. So yeah, I was 8 years old when I decided I wanted to be a lawyer and accomplish that dream. Not long after that, so I was kind of in the pursuit of that. And I think it wasn't about the profession of law. It was about my perception of law as a way to make change, social justice, to help people. And I knew that even at that age that I had the skill set to make an argument and to hopefully help people through that.
I love it. I love it. We would have been best buds when we were
Little
kids.
Yvette was a handful, okay?
Oh
A
my
lot.
goodness, such
My
troublemakers, but in such a
grandmother,
good
a patient
way.
angel.
Right? But in
Patient.
such good ways, and I love that, like you said, they didn't force that out of you. They let that be and let that flourish and let that grow, and look what a little change maker and Renaissance woman you became.
Yes.
Well, let's get into that a little bit more.
Yeah.
What was your career journey like? Because I know, you're not, like you said right before we got on, I'm not like a quote unquote woman in digital, but I think there's so much about your career and your journey that is inspired that, does lend itself to a lot of what these women who are listening, who are also just professional women making their way in the world, can get from your experience and story.
Yeah, it's funny because I was on a journey of pursuit of becoming a lawyer, very narrowly focused for a very long time, and did everything that I needed to do. I did mock trial in high school. I go to the library, I would read books about Supreme Court justices. I was very clear. And being the first in my family to go to college and not really having role models, I knew that I had to get that insight and that information. And I told anybody who would listen, I'm going to be a lawyer, I'm going to be a lawyer, manifested that thing in a real way. And then I get to the profession and I realize, this isn't exactly the way I expected to do this. And so rather than suffering through it, and that suffering is a strong word because the profession of law is sophisticated. I got to work on really challenging problems. I got to work with amazing clients and make real change, but it didn't feel like enough. And I knew there was something more. And I'll just add a little note here because I think we all know that feeling. We've all had that moment where we're like, this isn't enough. I want more. And what most of us do is we're like, oh, that's crazy. You just ignore it.
Uh-huh.
And what I did was I said, no, I need to listen to that. So my first career shift for real. I mean, I worked a job right out of college, moved to LA. I was in marketing because I had a mass communication degree and a political science degree and a minor concentration in business law. So the busybody in me has
Yeah.
always been here.
Yep.
So I double majored and minored, and I worked 4 jobs in college. She's always been
Ah,
her.
no
She's
problem at
always
all.
been her. She shows up. So, but fast forward to law. After working for a few years at amazing law firms, doing sophisticated work, I realized it wasn't enough. And I said, I got to do something about that. So, one of my good friends happened to be hosting a trip to Africa. And that was the first real sign I had that I need to do something about this because I went there to support the education team, to work with young people. We brought them tools from America that they didn't have. We taught them a play so that they can learn to use the mosquito nets. These kids were brilliant and impressive, even at the primary level, because in Africa, kids aren't guaranteed to be able to make it to secondary school and certainly not to university. So they teach as much as they can. So they say, Miss Simpson, you come on in do you want the math room? I go, oh, they're doing advanced trigonometry in primary school. I was like, where are we learning English? Where are we learning to write? So I was like, I went into and spent a lot of time with headmasters in the 3 villages that we work with. And more importantly, when I left, those kids came back with me. And I'm working on cases 6 months back, and I'm just like, this isn't it. There's so much more. I have to do something. And I didn't know what. And so you don't always need to know what. You just need to know that. You just need to know that you need to like something. Don't ignore that noise in your head, that feeling in your gut that says, typically I'd have to have a plan and a backup plan. And I just said, I just need something. And I met with a good friend of mine who's now passed away, who was a great mentor of mine. And she said, Yvette, you can do whatever you want to do. So by happenstance, Miami University was looking to build a new pre-law program. It was my alma mater. They had been reaching out to me many times about ways to get me back to the university. I was like that super student. I got the President's Distinguished Service Award from Miami University as a senior. How can we get you back? And so that just felt like a great opportunity, right? We never had a pre-law program at Miami. I loved working with students and young people. I was a mentor. I said, I just need to get out of the noise. I need to step away. So I took a 50% pay cut, left the practice of law to go and build this program at Miami University. And it was the best thing I could have ever done. Because when you're in the thing, you can't get away from it. And especially when you're practicing law as a young associate, you're working nonstop. I'm working weekends. I'm working nights. You don't have time. So I saw that opportunity as a way to step out, try something different, and maybe I'd get clarity on the long range. And I built that program, ran that program for 5 years. And that was when it got quiet enough for me to get the wisdom and inspiration that I was supposed to run for office.
Yeah.
And that was when I ran for office.
Yes.
So by that point, if you count my marketing career in LA,
Uh-huh.
1, 2, 3, I was on my third, now my fourth turn. So I was already, I'd done there was a women's publication in Cincinnati, and I was on the cover. They did a whole edition on reinvention, and there I am. And so I was 27, 28, 29,
Uh-huh.
had already reinvented myself several times. Yeah. And once you get that muscle,
Yeah.
then it just it's easier. I
Mhm.
think we're told that you're supposed to stay in this job, this career forever, and we're not encouraged to listen to ourselves when we feel that tug to move.
Mhm.
And I've become very attuned to that
Mhm.
tug, and when it calls me, I listen.
Just move. I
Just
love
move.
that. You just
Just
move.
move.
I
Yeah.
think it's brilliant. And I think that's why I wanted you to share that story.
Mhm.
Having, I know all of our listeners across, the airwaves, whatever you'd call them for podcasts now, are all over the country. But, being in the Cincinnati area and having kind of seen you kind of move in these ways across the city, across the country, across the years, it's amazing. And it's like you're showing so many women and modeling for so many that it's absolutely possible, and there's no stigma around it, there's no shame in it. It's just you feel it, you find it, you do it.
Yeah. And it's not without consequence. Like clearly
Mhm.
taking a 50% pay cut was
Yeah.
something that I could afford to do,
Mhm.
something that actually served me because I needed that.
Yes.
That's when you really realize like what's most important? What do
Mhm.
I really need?
Yeah.
And I had a freedom and a happiness for that 5-year period that I had not experienced
Yes.
before,
Mhm.
and meaningful. I mean,
Yep.
I worked with over 1,000 students.
Yeah.
I mean, in that time that I was able to help make the decision to go to law school, that impact
Mhm.
is far surpasses anything that I could have measured at that time in my career. So,
Mhm.
it's not without consequence. And when I talk to people about this, I say the pursuit of your purpose is this thing that not only it's a roller coaster. It doesn't happen overnight,
Uh-huh.
but you can do it.
Yeah.
You can do it. And that's why part of the book is really about intention.
Mhm.
Because I think we're convinced that like somehow we have to do things a certain way.
Yeah.
And you don't.
Yeah.
You choose to breathe in and breathe out. I mean, I know it's an involuntary action, but
Mhm.
you could I just decided I was going to do that. So if you control whether or not you take a breath or not, you certainly control whether or not you make a move. You have the ability to do it. And it's weeding through and working through all of the things that we feel like we have to hold on to that we need, that keeps us from reinvention and really pursuing our purpose in a meaningful way.
I love that. Let's
Yeah.
talk a little bit about that then. Your book on
Yes.
purpose and the power of authenticity and reinvention. It
Yeah.
goes into the topic of, in the essence of fulfillment. Can you share what inspired you to write the book? And let's just discuss the topic a little bit more.
So I have reinvented myself. I don't know how many times now. I think I actually have like 7 businesses active in this moment. Um,
It's amazing.
yes, it is joyful. It may not be for everyone. So like just
Sure.
know it, know yourself. But I have been coaching at this point business owners, political leaders, nonprofit leaders, and I noticed a theme. Um, and the pandemic, I think, really exacerbated
Mm,
that.
yeah.
That there was this shift in mindset from I go to work and do a job, and then I find my fulfillment in all the things outside of work. There
Mhm.
were people who were starting to want to, because time is short, limited, life is certainly not
Oh, yeah.
guaranteed. That was all starkly, in front of us with COVID
Mhm.
because everything,
Very
not
much
only
so.
were we losing people, but how we do things changed. We had to change everything. And people were starting to wonder, what am I really doing?
Mhm.
And that kind of break really started to, I think, help people see you do control more.
Yep.
We can change things because, like, parents were teachers.
Yes.
All of a sudden, you got your kids at home. God bless you, amen. All the parents out there that were teachers during that time, we
Uh-huh.
all became tech people. I was working at ABC, and I became my own production assistant, my own audio person. I had my remote set up in the basement. Like we all learned different ways to do things, and I think in that moment too of stillness
Mhm.
and maybe a little bit more time for us to reflect, we realized that like I want to do something different. Like I want to find a way to marry my profession and my passion and
Absolutely.
my purpose all in one thing. How do I do that? And so I started to see this theme. And so because of that, I did a TED talk in the middle of the pandemic,
Oh,
which was
fantastic.
real. Thank you. And after the TED talk, folks are like, "You should write a book about this." And I'm like, "My medium is audio and
Yeah.
TV. Like I'm a talker.
Yep. Yep.
I'm a lawyer. I can write, but sitting down and writing a book didn't seem like something that I would be able to do."
Sure.
So I talked to a friend of mine and I called her editor for her book and hoping to engage her as a ghostwriter.
Ah,
And she said, "Yvette, you can write. Why
mhm.
would you hire a ghostwriter? Write the book
Uh-huh.
and I'll edit it for you." Her name is Amy McConnell. She's a former VP of Simon and Schuster, ghostwriter for HarperCollins.
Mhm.
She's amazing. And she said to me, "Write the book."
Yeah.
And so I wrote the book
Great.
and she edited the book and I waited anxiously,
Uh-huh.
to get her feedback. And she said, "The book is good." She said, and we thought about traditional publishing. She said, "Publish the book because you've already written it and you don't want to have to sacrifice the book. Let's just,
Yeah.
let's self-publish this one or hybrid publish it. And then if you want to traditionally publish the future books, then you can do that." So she was just a great partner, wrote the book, and then didn't want to release the book because I was nervous about every single part of it.
Uh-huh.
And I hope Amy gets to hear this because I love, she's from Nashville. She's got this amazing Southern accent.
Mhm.
And she said, "Yvette, release the birth the baby, Yvette, birth the baby, birth it.
You gotta have
You
it.
gotta push the baby out."
You
This
gotta.
is the reason why babies will come out whether you like it or not,
Right.
because
Otherwise,
otherwise we be holding the babies in us,
never.
not wanting to push. So I released the book, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I wrote it. So I
Yeah.
became an author. And it was a reflection of my own experiences going through the purpose journey,
Mhm.
the process I take with reinvention. And I had tons of people that I had coached through it, tons of
Mhm.
people whose stories actually were more alike than different. And that's why in the book we have these
Yes.
avatars, which are basically the two most prominent types of women I've
Mhm.
coached through this process. And they reflect hundreds of women
Oh,
that
interesting.
fit these two avatars.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's fantastic. Yeah. We'll have to
Yeah.
include a link in the show notes so everyone can check that book out. And I absolutely agree with you. As I would talk to members, non-members, women within my network, just folks in general, it was like the pandemic induced either a quarter life or midlife crisis, whether we
Yes.
were at that point in our life or not. Like you said, just because of all of us looking at this potential loss of life. It really kind of had all of us kind of stare down this moment, but also because of isolation and the slower pace of life forced us all to just take a moment and look. And so for as devastating and as difficult as it was in so many ways, um, I don't know. I have a lot of folks that are still like, well, in a lot of ways, what kind of, when we're going to start to see it over the years, what kinds of gifts and opportunities did it give?
Yeah.
Would your book been in existence
Probably not.
if
No,
if that wouldn't have
not
happened?
at all. I mean, I
So
don't even think I
interesting,
would have had the space to step out and even think about it.
right?
It
Yeah.
gave me the space to do that. My winemaking business came out of that space because I wasn't traveling as much. So I think, I lost both of my parents in the midst of the pandemic, neither from COVID, but in the midst of
Oh
COVID, which was
gosh,
really
must have been so
challenging.
hard.
I mean, but it did give me that crystal clear perspective.
Mhm.
Like a lot of people who lost someone either to COVID
Yeah.
or during COVID, during that compressed period of time,
Mhm.
where we couldn't, I didn't have as much access to my parents, even as they were going through
Yeah.
their struggles. My father with cancer, my mother had heart condition
Mhm.
that popped up in the middle of the pandemic. And so that also for me
Yeah.
reinforced for me. So
Mhm.
what we know now, McKinsey did a study recently, and as many as 65% of people now
Mhm.
want their work to be connected to their purpose. They're
Yes.
demanding
I
that.
agree. Agree.
And so I'm now coaching workforces. You
Yeah.
want to keep your people, ask them what their purpose
They
is
want,
and
yeah,
put them in a position to do
100%.
that. Yeah.
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 I definitely agree. I think that was the case prior to COVID, but even more so
Yeah.
now. Yeah, we just had that was our last event actually here for Cincinnati local chapter. And we
Okay.
brought the Mackey group in and we had Mackie McNeil herself come and speak. And such an awesome lady. And then Sarah Grace, her daughter, came and spoke also on our last podcast episode. If you want to go back and take a listen to her as well, talking about a little bit of money mindset. It has a CPA firm that's also a B Corp. Listen, you can make money and do good.
You can
It's
do good
possible.
and do well. You can do
So
good and
yeah,
do well. Yeah.
Yeah, it gives you cause to hope, and I love, love, love that, especially in the face of a lot of, stress and trauma. And that's been another thing too, is I've been reading and researching and thinking a lot about, talking a lot about post-traumatic growth
Yeah.
as well.
Yes.
And that's been like another interesting topic that, I'm hoping to maybe have. We've had a clinical psychologist on as well. Dr. Aquina Boateng was a
Mhm.
past guest as well. If some of you want to go back and take a listen, she also refers to some of that too
Yeah.
as another great reference. But let's keep on. We've got some more good things to talk about. All right. So let's talk about, those good old societal pressures and norms that we all love that can lead us astray from our authentic selves. That how can we begin to challenge these limiting beliefs and embrace self-love?
Well, I mean, when I talk about authenticity, people think that I'm talking about the way you present to the world.
Mm,
Do I present as someone who is authentic? Not at all. Authenticity is about your relationship to you.
I love
Do
that.
you exist in a space internally where you feel like you're you? Do
Mhm.
you know yourself? Are you comfortable with yourself? Do you love yourself? And I do these talks, especially with women, and I ask them, how many of you love yourself right now as you are? The way, not if you lose 5 pounds, not if you can sing like
Right.
Beyonce, not if that man or woman that you've been trying to pursue comes into your life. Do you love yourself right now?
Mhm.
And I was astounded by the lack of hands
Mhm.
raised in the room, even now. And that's young women,
Mhm.
that's accomplished women, and everything in
Yeah.
between. And I realize that there's this deficit of self love. Part of that is because we don't know ourselves, because we don't value ourselves, and we don't understand our connection to the world. When I tell people, and I mean this, that the world needs you at your best, if I told you that you can love yourself and love yourself as you are because we need you as you. You don't have to be anybody else. And in fact, trying to be someone else is robbing the world of you. Two Beyonce's, way too much. Two
Right.
Tay Tays, too
Too
much,
much.
right? We need you. And guess what? That job's already taken. And so when I always see the emotion when I'm doing training and workshop around what have I told you that you are exactly who you're supposed to be, and your gift is exactly what the world needs. That relief.
Mhm.
I don't have to be anybody else. That gives people permission, the permission you should have to be who you are. Now, the getting to who you are is a journey. We talk about the 4 S's in the book of authenticity. And a big part of that is knowing that you have a position. We talk about S, which is stand, shining your star, acknowledging the things that are good about you, the things you say about yourself, speak, making sure you're speaking positive words about yourself. We can do the A, the B, and the C. B is breakthrough. And you said limiting beliefs, breaking through limiting beliefs and old patterns that keep you stuck.
Yeah.
And the breakthrough thing is always the thing that like really starts to get people, because we all have these things. Michelle Obama, arguably the most powerful woman in the world, certainly the most beautiful and sweet person in the world that I've ever come to know,
Mhm.
suffers from imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Like if she can, certainly, of course we do. Of
Yeah.
course we do.
Yeah.
How do you push that down? By seeing yourself as who you really are and loving yourself for who you are. There's nothing wrong with aspiration. Aspiration is the things that I dream for myself. I want to be. Affirmation is loving and acknowledge the things that are true about you right now. So by affirming those things in yourself, I am beautiful, I am worthy, I am resilient, I've got this. I am exactly what the world needs, just as I am. Who I am is a gift to the world. There is someone who loves me, and I love myself, even if they don't. But I know that there are people who love me and who care about me, and I receive that love. Those things, when you start to say those things over your spirit, it lifts you and it starts to make you believe it, because we're taking a lot in.
Mhm.
We're getting a lot of that external. You're not good enough. There's no way you can do that. You're not pretty enough. You're not skinny enough. Nobody will ever love you. You have to tell yourself the true and positive things about yourself every day, because you're going to get so much negative. And unfortunately, our ears, our hearts, and our spirits take in negativity way more.
Mhm.
I'll hear one negative thing, and it'll kick out the 20 positive things I heard. Why we're wired that way? Human nature,
Yeah.
which means we have to do those things. And then we talk about change. Change one thing, just one, just one. Because when you change one thing, then you've proven to yourself that you can change everything. And by changing one thing, everything has already changed, right? If I take one step to the left, my viewpoint and my position is different. The way I see the world is different. And so we have these long laundry lists. I got to change this, got all my, resolutions that are in the trash by March.
Maybe
Let's be real,
February.
happens to me. I like these resolutions. I'm gonna do all these things. Nothing
Yeah.
gets done. So when we change one thing, then we realize that everything can change. I call it the ripple. You put your finger in the water,
Mhm.
and then by nature, Octavia Butler. Everything you touch, you change. Everything you change changes you.
Yeah.
So change one thing,
Mhm.
and by virtue of that, everything changes. Yeah.
Y'all could just sit here and listen to Yvette all day. This
Thank
is
you.
why I was like, I literally chased her down after hearing you speak for the first time. I was like, you need to come and be on this
Oh my
podcast.
gosh. Well, there's something about, thank you for saying that, first of all. It means a lot. There's something about being where you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And I think about every turn I took,
Mhm.
all the reinventions that I had that got me here.
Mhm.
This is where I belong in this season in my life, doing this work,
Yeah.
all the things I've learned, all the
Yeah.
people I've helped in this moment.
Mhm.
And there's something about, you can feel it.
Yeah.
There's something about when you see someone in their zone doing the
Yes.
thing. And that's what we need. That's what I say. Like, imagine everybody lighting up around the world. You're
Yes.
lighting up because you're doing the thing that you can do, bringing your gift to the world.
Mhm.
I could be out there doing 90,000 things in this moment. I know that in this moment, this work, all the work that I'm doing is where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah. And I think everybody deserves that, right?
Yeah.
Everybody deserves to find
Yeah.
and be in their place.
Ah, the joy. Have you ever seen somebody like floating
Mhm.
when they're doing the thing that they can do? It's
Yeah.
like watching
It's the
Beyonce or
best
Tate
thing to
Davidson. Like
witness.
they're in the zone.
Yeah.
And that feeling is not only infectious, contagious, and what we should be aiming for. Work shouldn't be a drug, a drudge, and I got to drag myself, and I hate this thing. It should be something that lights you up, because guess what? Light is attractive, and it
Mhm.
attracts good and more energy to you. And guess what? The world needs you there.
Yeah.
There's a role for you. There are people waiting for you. When we say stand on the X, there are
Mhm.
people waiting for you there.
Yeah.
And as soon as you get there, they're going to be like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're here. You're exactly what I needed today.
Yes, and that's such a good feeling, and it's
Mhm.
so affirming. And I think there's a challenge in there, though. I think that some people want to go from 0 to that.
Yeah.
But I wanna bring it back for just a second to where you started, which was that self-awareness. And I think one thing I learned, and I think owning and running a business definitely handed me my own ass in so many ways and taught me this, is that self-awareness is
It
confidence.
is.
When you are aware of yourself and you give yourself grace, and like you said, this self-love, it does require that sense of true understanding, because the person that you are going to be in relationship the longest for the time that you're on this earth is yourself.
That's so true.
And
That's
if
a
you
word.
can't be your own best friend, then heck, how can anybody else love you?
Yeah.
And in order to step into that zone of genius, in order to step into your confidence, like, you just really have to know and trust yourself, and don't give away that knowing. And, go into those places that are scary. But in order to have that confidence, I think it really does take self awareness and knowing.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have always asked me, like, you come off as so confident and blah, blah, blah. And there's just no big secret. It
Yeah.
really is no big secret. It
Yeah.
really is just knowing what are my strengths, what are my weaknesses,
Right.
and really being just kind of okay with them
Not
and
only
allowing
okay with
them.
that, but seeing that as your superpower. I
Yeah.
talked at the Power to Pursue conference where we were together about um, patience. I'm not a patient person.
Uh-huh.
So I've been asked to do all these things about patience. I'm not your girl. Okay. And patience is a virtue. Amen.
Yep.
Not her. But my impatience has changed the world.
Mhm.
My insistence on things happening now has changed the world. And so I'm not going to try to be a patient person. I'm going to try to be patient with people is what I want to do, but not push down the fact that I think the world needs to change, and it needs to change right now, because we need impatient people. Imagine if some of the biggest world changers in our nation had been like, oh, I can do that tomorrow. Martin Luther King. Oh, let me just, well, we'll overcome in 100 years. No, like, we need to do this right now.
Right.
There are people in the world who are impatient, and you need to be in position to be in spaces where your impatience is of value. There are times like, I want my doctor to be patient.
Mhm.
I want teachers to be patient. There's a reason I'm not a doctor or a teacher. But for world changers, we need you to be in your seat. Something's got to happen right now because the world needs that. So when we start to realize that even the things that are quote unquote weaknesses, like impatience, are value to you. It's not a negative. Oh, I wish I was more patient. Well, think about the ways that your impatience is helpful. Maybe you're in the wrong spot. Maybe
Yeah.
you need to be doing something where that's valuable.
I love
Yeah.
it. I agree. I agree. Let's talk about some more societal norms that seem to hold us back.
Ooh,
Titles
society.
and positions.
Society. Why society? Why? Yeah, so we're born into the and it's emblematic of everything. How do you introduce yourself? I'm Yvette Simpson, and I work at. I'm Yvette Simpson. I'm a lawyer. It's the first. Whenever I get that question, it's like I'm at a table. And like, everybody, tell us who you are and what you do. As soon as I'm like, okay, how much time you get? I got like 7 things, right?
Right.
I got
You're like,
7 things.
my business card is actually an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper.
I have to use a digital card because I got like 7 digital. I'm like, which business you need? You need wine? Here's that card. You need real estate? Here we go. So the fact that we are asked to fit into we're asked to identify ourselves as a job or a career, and that people will affirm you or maybe reject you based on what you say. It causes us to feel like that's our value.
Mhm.
I am a chief officer at Procter and Gamble. Woo! Now I'm going to take you seriously.
Right.
Right? Shout out to all my P&G people. Love you. But like, it shouldn't be that, because the reality is we're more than that. We're more than a job. We're more than a position. You're more than a title. You have gifts, passions. You have instincts and insight that allows you to be and do so many different things. And so you get stuck because you're like, I'm a lawyer. What would I do if I wasn't a lawyer? Right? Like, the reality is that you're more than that. There are skills and gifts that make you astute at being a lawyer that can be used in many different places. And so that's why people get stuck. We talk about the closed door and the open window. And I'm writing Open Windows now. It's my second book. Y'all send out some good love to your girl, because I need to sit my little butt down and write the book. But the whole point is that we know the door is closed. Sometimes the door is cracked open and we know we need to close it. And we're staring at this door and we won't move because we don't know who we are if we're not that. If you are so identified with a title, you're like, who am I if I'm not that?
Yep.
And the gift that I was given by, wanting to be a lawyer, becoming a lawyer, and realizing that that wasn't going to be enough early in my career was that I didn't say I have to be a lawyer to be a vet. My identity is not tied to that. I am many things. It also gives me the ability to say, okay, in this season, I'm feeling like, we change. I used to love jet setting. Honey, put me in a hotel in New York,
Yeah.
loving it. Now I'm like, can I do that remote?
Yep.
Because getting older, slowing down,
Uh-huh.
gives me the ability to then shift and do things. Because we talk about lifestyle and really making sure you're in a space that like makes you that accounts for all the things you want. It's not just about purpose and legacy; those are important things, but also having a life that actually brings you joy.
Yes.
And so, if you're on a plane all the time and you just like to be in your bed, honey, let's reassess this thing.
Uh-huh.
So I like to shift with that, and understanding that as I get older, I'm going to want different things, and so I need to adjust to that as well. But if society tells you you are this and you believe that's all you are, you'll never move.
Mhm.
And that's unfortunate, because I've coached people and talked to people who have been in a career, good benefits. This is who I am. I can't see myself as anything else. And they know they're supposed to be doing something else, but they can't figure out how to get from here to there because they don't know how to not be the person that they've been introducing themselves as their whole
Yes.
life. You are you.
Mhm. Mhm.
You're you. And you can do anything that you desire.
Yeah.
And maybe the world needs you to do that. So think about that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, and it's so sad, right? Because it's like
Yes.
literally like self-induced walls that are just narratives that you have built up
Yeah.
inside your own mind, and just like, well, doubts, fears, and narratives. But I know some people might see that, pursuing purpose feels like it's easier said than done.
That's true.
What are some practical steps that you feel like others can take to align their daily lives to their true calling or purpose?
Well, I think first making an assessment of, do that work about who you are so you know what your
Yep.
purpose is. But once you've established that, really think about your life and what you actually need.
Mhm.
So when I talk to people and they're like, well, our kids are in private school, we got this big house,
Uh-huh.
I got to make this amount of money. Okay. Do you?
Yeah.
Is that a choice you've made? Um, uh, I understand that people have to live, so I'm not asking people to make a jump. I joke about the Beyonce when she had that "Release Your Job" song,
Uh-huh.
and everybody start calling me and wanting to release your job. Don't release your job if you can't pay your mortgage.
Right.
Not today. We can make a plan
Mm-hmm.
for how you get to a place
Yeah.
where you can financially make the shift. So it's not always fast. I was in a financial place where I could take a 50% pay cut to
Yep.
move.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Doing that was great because now I'm in a position where I'm making even more than I would have made if I had stayed. So that fear, that FEAR around, I can't leave because I need the money, trust and believe that when you're in a place using your gift and doing the thing that you want to do, one, you will be fulfilled. That's more valuable than money. Not that money isn't necessary, but that is valuable. Once you get that feeling, you will chase it. I'm chasing it for the rest of my life.
Yes.
And I will find a way
Uh-huh.
because things we think we need,
Uh-huh.
we don't need. So start to really assess, what are the things I really need?
Mm-hmm.
And am I willing to live the life and do the thing that will bring me joy in order to get it?
Yes.
So I made some real choices about what I really need in order to fulfill this life. Be prepared for the roller coaster. And you can approach a roller coaster like this, or you can approach a roller coaster like this,
Yes.
hands up, mouth wide open. So go into this situation knowing it's going to be a roller coaster, but think of it as a ride where at the end of it, you're going to have these bumps, but at the end of it, you're going to feel really great and say, can I do that again? As opposed to, oh no, we're going up the hill. We're going down now. Confronting your fear. And so I think if you feel like every single day you're going into a job or you're working in community or whatever you're doing and you're dragging it, the other side of this thing, oh my gosh, it's going to be so good for you and you will not put a price on that. So you've
Mm-hmm.
got to begin to make that plan. And so I step through with people the plan. So I'm in my job now. I want to start a business. Um, so how do you have a side hustle for 3 years while you start to build your business up while you're doing this job? My kids are just a few years away from empty nesting. Hey, empty nesters, I feel you. I love you. How do I build myself so that when my kids go off, then I'll be able to do this thing? Or maybe it's something that I can do in tandem. So I don't assume to know everybody's individual situation. But what I know is that if you want it bad enough, you will make it happen. And I think that's what's hard for people. They can't get from here to there. So I start people with these little exercises, right? Take a different way to work today.
Mm-hmm.
You go to the same way to work every day. Just by taking a different way to work, you realize, like, I get to choose how I go to work. And you get to see a different side of town. You get to see what happens when you change something. And then you
Mm-hmm.
start to think, well, now I change something else. And then you become addicted to change in a good way because you realize I have control.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I don't wanna work every single day. Maybe I wanna take a vacation. I'm gonna take a vacation to go somewhere I've never been before. It is completely, like, infectious to begin to realize I choose. Brush your teeth with the other hand.
I love it.
Just I mean, little things. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be a big thing when we start to realize, like, I control every single part. At the
Mm-hmm.
Power to Pursue, I told everybody, "Raise your hand. Put them down. Pick them up. Put them down." You just made choices. You decide. And I think this intention piece, which is a big part of the book around how you set your intention and how you take the real steps to get into that place, is a big part of it because we're not just talking about this ethereal, up in the air purpose. Oh, we're talking about for real. We're talking about taking real practical steps
Mm-hmm.
to then make that happen.
I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. Well, because yeah, I mean, I think back through it. It was actually during a therapy session, and I look back at my days in agency and as a mom of two young kids, and I was thinking, like, how did I even get through those days
Yeah.
working the hours I did and not sleeping? And I was like, I was on autopilot.
Yeah.
And I think, when we are in survival mode, as many of us are, oftentimes it is because we really do try to limit the amount of choices that we make
Right.
because we have such decision fatigue often. And so we don't feel motivated or inspired to even think about making any choices, and we surrender
Yeah.
ourselves and every possible choice we have, from the smallest to sometimes the
Yeah.
biggest. And where does it get us?
Yeah.
Where does it
Not
get
where we want
us?
to be.
I look around at our world and society right now, and I'm saying, not where we want to be.
Completely out of balance. The world is completely out of balance because we're not where we're supposed to be. I mean, that is what I say all the time. We don't
Yeah.
need more.
Yeah.
We need people in position doing the thing that only they can do. And if we have that, the world
Yes.
is in balance and has everything it needs. It's so funny that we don't talk about second act until after we retire. Like
Yes.
people are like, I'm retiring and now I'm going to do the thing that I want to do. Why
Yes.
can't you do the thing now?
Right. I
Right.
so
And so we
agree.
all know this thing. We live in it. We always just
Hmm.
tell ourselves we have to do this thing and sloth through it for now.
Right.
And, I'm not insensitive to the fact, especially young parents,
Hmm.
people who have parents of young kids, you got a lot on your plate.
Sure.
And also, you're better for your kids
Uh-huh.
when they see you at your best. So
Yes.
maybe you take a beat and say, well, how can I do this
Oh,
differently
yeah.
for them and for
Oh,
me?
100%.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's
I,
not easy,
no.
but it is definitely possible.
It is worth it. I did the same thing you did. It wasn't a 50% pay cut, but I left a bigger agency, went to a smaller company that had much more work life balance. I was still working on big clients, doing amazing work. I actually liked the structure better and had more like autonomy,
Mhm.
everything. And I was getting paid, you know, like maybe 10% less. And it was all worth it.
Yeah.
There's more currency than money. I was coming home. I was more balanced with my kids, with my partner. I was just so much happier as a human for the most part. Like there was still things I was working through. And then even coming into this role and owning and running a small businesses, yeah, sacrifices are made, but changes can happen. And honestly, the person that I've become through those challenges and difficulties, it's all been worth it.
Yeah.
It's not easy. It is not easy. But I think that like the legacy you leave, the lives you impact, and I would hope that the impression that I've made for my kids and the model that I've been able to make and be for my children too is so much different
Yeah.
than what I was before. And I literally said this, I think, on another interview that I just did yesterday. I'm like, I'm so grateful my kids were too young to remember me when I was in my agency days because I would say that the people that I worked with still felt that I was very much maybe who I am now, but I feel like I am more of who I am now,
Yeah.
more me than I have ever been since I was a kid,
Yeah.
you know? And that's such a really great place. And this is
Yeah.
why I love listening to you, Yvette, too, because I
Thank
feel
you.
that from you as well,
Yeah.
which is why I started with the kid question.
Yeah.
And I also remember you answering a similar question at the Power to Pursue. But yeah, I really want that especially for more women. I also had a woman share that with me about, we talk a lot about, just all things about womanhood within Together Digital, about being postmenopausal
Oh.
and how that really changed things for her, right? The kids were
Mhm.
grown and out of the house and she was basically feeling like her prepubescent self. She says, the world has marginalized me. I've basically been rendered invisible, which is kind of a cool thing, actually, because now I don't have to give a flip about what anybody thinks of me. I can kind of just go about doing whatever I'd like. And I have so much energy
Yeah.
and I'm not affected by my cycle. And yeah, like I'm just kind of got this new sort of energy about my life and what I want to do. But like you said, it shouldn't really have to come
You
to
shouldn't
that.
have to wait. And here's why: we just don't know that we're going to get that time.
It's
You
so
just don't
100%
know.
true.
And guess
Agree.
what? Why
Good
shouldn't
point.
we live our entire lives like this? Somebody told us a real bad lie that work has to be awful.
Yeah.
That's why it's
Agreed.
called work. Somebody told
Good
me that.
point.
I'm like, that is the biggest lie. It
Agreed.
is not true. You can find joy
Mhm.
in work. You should come to work feeling like you are using everything that you have, the gifts that you have. So one of the exercises, I know we're time. One of the exercises I encourage people to do, especially people who have a lot on their plate. So I know it's a big ask. Take time, 15, 20 minutes, get in a quiet place, your most comfortable place. If that's like soft music, grab your journal, close your eyes for a minute, and just dream about
Mhm.
what you want your life to be right now. Like dream it in color, 4D, what you imagine it. It is an emotional experience. No limitations. No, not if the kids were grown, not if I had money. Because when we're kids, we're asked all the time what you want to be. Nobody asks adults what we want to be. They say, how are you going to make a living? What is your profession? What do you do? What do you want for your life? Right? Dream that thing big and then write it down and then make that your life's work. Make the Take the first step. Just that first step. Think about positions on a chessboard. We saw the chessboard out here. It made me think about it. When you move a piece, it's in a different place. That first step, you can't go from the front to the end without taking several steps. Take the first one, and then your next move is your next step, and then your next step. You get overwhelmed because you're like, I can't do it all of it. You cannot do it all in one step. You can do it in multiple steps, though. Take the first one. But once you get that dream, baby, in your head, you won't be able to deny it. But most of us won't give ourselves even the time.
Yeah.
I was like that early on. Had a great friend of mine who's a lawyer. He said, "What would you do if you weren't working?
Yeah.
What are your hobbies?" I was like, "Not working. I don't
What's
know."
hobbies? Hobbies? What are hobbies?
Like, I had to realize, like,
Uh-huh. I
oh
was
my
that way.
God, I don't even know what I would. I
Mhm.
hadn't even, like, it's one thing to know it and not do it. I hadn't even taken time to think about it.
Yep.
Think about what you want your life to be like without limitations and write it down. And then you can work the plan over many steps to get that thing done. And don't wait, because none of us is promised even another minute. And that's what COVID really taught us, is that, like, hey, I don't want to be at the end of my life and realize I didn't get to do and be the person I wanted to be. That's the whole point of this thing,
Mhm.
because your company will move on without you. The
Yeah.
organizations you give
Yes,
it,
they
they will
will.
change the nameplate,
Oh, yeah.
baby, change the security code on the computer.
In a
They will
heartbeat.
move on.
In a
But
heartbeat.
you have to be protective of you, because you are the only you've got.
Yeah.
And you're the only you the world has too. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Let's go to that for just a second. For those who are going to hopefully walk away from this and take some time to practice some self-love and self-acceptance. I understand that that can be hard for some. It can be a bit of a challenge. So, how can we begin to cultivate more compassion and self-loving relationship with ourselves for those who maybe just have never even tried something like this and it feels a little woo?
Yeah. Yeah. It does feel a little, but it's also very practical. Like I said,
Yes.
we make choices about what we decide about ourselves.
Mhm.
And, if we decide that I'm only going to focus on the things that I don't like about me, then you're never going to see the real you, the beautiful you, the magnetic you, the resilient you, the powerful you, the radiant you. When people start to actually show up the way that they are, you're like a light. I coach people through work things, but also there's always this relationship thing that comes up. In the book, we talk a little bit about relationships. And, like, for those of us, those of you, I'm married now, but those who are seeking a mate, I always say, you know what? Light, joy is magnetic, it's attractive. So when you start showing up as the you, opportunities come, relationships come. You know that person that you see that's shining bright, right? You don't care what that person does. You're attracted to that person. Be that person. Don't be afraid. You're not you dimming your light is not serving the world, and it's not serving you. So know who you are and know how beautiful you are. Reinforce that for you, right? The things that are negative about you, those things, they're just the other side of you, and we need that balance. But that is not who you are. I'm not patient. God bless America. I've talked about this, but I don't need to be. Yvette Simpson is impatient, and accept that about you. So I think it's that you deserve it. You deserve it. I did a session and I asked everybody to say, I am worthy. And there was a young lady in the back of the room and she couldn't say, I am worthy. Ugh, broke my heart. Like, we are all worthy just in who we are, of love and of good things and of grace. Grace. Give yourself the grace. Oh my gosh. We will give grace to every single other person and we'll be the hardest on
Oh
ourselves.
yeah.
These are just a few things that you can start to do and talk about yourself as you are, as you introduce yourself. You know, who are you? When somebody says, who are you? Maybe you don't answer that question as I work at P&G. Maybe you say, I am a powerful woman who is trying to change the world today.
I love it.
Yeah,
I
I
love
got that on my business card. Did you see?
I mean, that sums it up
Listen, I
basically.
mean,
With wine, with law, with politics.
so I'm like, maybe you have a little cute little business card that doesn't have your title and your job. It's who you are. Show
Love
up
it.
as that person, but we're all worthy. So if you can't say in your spirit, I'm worthy of love and good things, a good life, I'm worthy of being seen and loved just as I am, then we need to do some work, because those are all true things that you just aren't seeing in yourself and expressing in yourself. So why focus on the things that are negative and not the things that are positive? But we're all worthy. So I think that's where we have to give ourselves permission to really embrace that. And society would like us to not do that. And society can take two seats.
Right?
Me and society need to break up for real.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't even know who these people are. We're bowing down to some society that we've never met. When they were like they and them, who
They,
is
them,
they?
I don't even know. I don't even know anymore
I
because
don't give.
I honestly feel like I'm going to brag on myself a little bit here. I think I've just spent so much of my time building and supporting and creating community around me of people that I know, I trust, I love, I support in return that love, trust, and support that when I hear about the day, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know these people.
They ain't
I
here.
don't know. I don't know. I
They
mean,
not
I'm
putting
sure
money
they're
on
out there
in my
somewhere,
pocket
but
or sending me a Christmas card every year. I don't know they. And if I did know they, I wouldn't spend time with they. They
no,
not my
no,
people.
no, I'm not. I'm not giving them my time or my energy any longer. Thanks. Well, actually, that leads nicely into my next question. You are definitely reminding us that we have the power to determine what we do and don't do,
That's right.
who we give our time, love, and energy to. How can we stay grounded in our values and purpose when we are faced with external pressures or expectations?
I think it's hard, especially for women.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think men are given a lot more permission to show up and be whoever they are. No matter how society might think that's good or bad, they make excuses for that. Women, we have to be all these things. And it's never enough. You can't be too strong. You can't be too soft. You can't be, screw that. I was talking to a young lady, I'll divert real quick, in the airport yesterday. She's in her 30s. And we had this long conversation about, all these things she's going through from 20 to 30. I said, baby, I'm in my 40s. I'm about 5 years away from really not caring at all. Like, I'm just like, that's the beauty. I said, we celebrate youth for all the things that it presents us, right? Energy, vibrancy, the world is ahead of you, that kind of thing. I take this. I take this age where I'm like, because the older you get, the more you start to realize that none of these things really do matter and that it's all a projection.
Yep.
It's all somebody else's view. My grandmother used to say, what people have to say about you is none of your business.
Yes.
And so if you get delivered a message to you that's not you, send it back. You return that thing to sender. I just stamp it. Sorry, you got the wrong address. That is not the Yvette Simpson that this was intended for. So you just send that negative foolishness back to somebody else. And so we just have to realize that we do control what we believe about ourselves, no matter what society says. And it is harder for women. And I think the best thing that we can do is stand in our own power and make sure that people know that we are not a monolith. I love my sisters who are quiet and caring and beautiful. God bless them. I need them in my life. I am not her. And I'm not trying to be her, right? There's value in all the ways that we show up. And we have to declare that, or we have to ignore it, what everybody else says. So you either have to be oblivious to it, right? Or you have to push it against. But if you let that fester in you, it's going to internalize in you. I mean, I remember somebody would tell me like, you're loud. I'm like, yeah, I'm loud. I like being
Thank
loud.
you.
You think you just insulted me. You just celebrated me. There is nothing
I love
wrong with
that.
women being loud,
I
right? You
love
thought
that.
you insulted me. You just
You
celebrated me.
me.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
And guess what? For folks who say, women, you're not assertive enough. You're too quiet. We just can't be. I love that Barbie movie because of that. Like that monologue. And it took me. It sent me. Because that's true. Be you. Love you. And who you are is exactly who you're supposed to be. The world needs all that. Forget society. You tell society to take that package back because that's not meant for you. That's what I would say, honey.
I love it.
But you know what? That's the beauty of wisdom and being older. And that's why I wouldn't trade it. I wish I had known this and could, I guess I kind of always have been like this, but I wish could have really embraced it when I was younger. And for those moms of daughters, especially, build that in those girls.
Yes.
Early.
Yes. Yes. I agree. I remember reading a magazine article once that talked about each of the decades of life for women, and they had deemed the 40s as the age of certainty. And I read it in my 20s and I was like, I can't wait to be in my 40s. And now that I'm in my 40s, I'm like really happy and excited to be here.
Now I want to be like 80 because I want to be like Sophia, like
Oh,
on the Golden Girls. Like I'm just like Sophia, grab that little purse and put it on her arm, and she don't care. She go in her room. She does not care. I'm ready to be Sophia.
Yes. I think I've been 80 since I was 10 years old.
Probably. Wearing the purse on the arm, yeah.
telling the world how it is.
That part.
And they want to pretend like it was a stroke that caused that attitude, but no.
No, no.
She's born that way.
Yep.
All right, I've got one more question for you, Yvette, but I want to make sure that our lovely live listening audience knows that if you have a question for Yvette, that you are more than welcome to ask in the chat. And that I see Kaylee, my fantastic wing woman, has been amazing at dropping all kinds of links for you all to be able to follow Yvette. So if you need more of this, which I know you do, you can go and check out all of those links for her YouTube, for her podcast, for her book, for her website. All right. As we strive, Yvette, to live more authentically and purposefully, what role does surrounding ourselves with a supportive community play in this transformative journey?
Everything.
Mm.
Everything. People. I said this yesterday when I was in Chicago. I went live for a second because I was on Navy Pier and the water and the waves were speaking to me. And I had just come from my Chicago book event where people who I went to college with, I hadn't seen in years, show up. And I thought, oh, I get to do this because I've got a community of people who support and love me.
Mm-hmm.
People are everything. And it really does matter who you have around you. I started to make real critical choices about who I let in my circle once I realized that they impacted how I feel about me, how far I can go. You've heard this. Oprah says this a lot of people saying this, but like your community really impacts you. So, since I was a kid, most people know my mother was mentally ill. My father at the time was addicted to substances. Of course, he became sober and stayed sober once I turned 16, and did a lot of great work in the sober community, helping a lot of people. But when I was younger, my grandmother raised me, and I didn't have a whole lot of people who knew what I wanted to do and who could help support that in a real way. So I started adopting mentors and mamas. Like if I still like, can I have your mama? I just borrow people's mamas. I just do, and aunties. And I'm now that for so many people. How many nieces and nephews do I have? Because you need people in your corner who really see you, who remind you. I talk in the book about checking your receipts as kind of a practice. And one of the ways I check my receipts is I talk to my best friend who's known me forever. When I'm feeling insecure, like I can't do something, she reminds me that I already did that thing and I did it really well. Because you forget what you can do when you're in tense moments. And I'll say, oh, I got to speak to a group. And she goes, you spoke to a group that was even bigger than that. You've done this. Having people who remember you. And I always check in with those people, just like I check with myself. Am I still me? Do I feel like I've changed in any way? I ask those questions because they hold me accountable to that, because the world will have you shift. And I never want to be anything other than who I am. So have a community of people who love, respect you. And one of the ways that you have control over your life is asking people to exit. Our relation, it's like Marie Kondo, your friend list.
Yeah.
You have brought me joy. I appreciate the fact that you have been in this journey with me. Thank you. And now I'm going to pass you on. I just Marie Kondo my closet. I'm just all over Marie Kondo.
I love
I
it.
had every piece of clothing. I'm like, thank you so much for
Yes.
getting me through these
Uh-huh.
times. You no longer fit and you make me feel bad about myself. I'm going to let you
Right.
go now.
Let it go.
Do that with your relationships. You don't have to keep people in your life, particularly if they're not serving you in this season of your life. You can be grateful for what they were to you, but you don't have to keep them in your circle, particularly if I hate going to meet with that person. They always bring me down. I got to have a drink just to hang out, like really a hard drink just to be around you, not a fun drink.
That's telling.
Like I don't want to. I don't want to. So keep a good community of people who love and respect you, who want to see you do well around you. And don't be afraid to tell people, I just thank you for being my friend up to this point, but it just doesn't make sense. And I've always said, I can want you to eat, but not at my table. I can want what's best for you, but not have you sit at the table with me.
Yeah.
And I have had people who have been in my life and folks who are just not, they're not where I am now. And I will wish the best for you.
Yeah.
I just don't want you with me
Yeah.
at this stage of my life. And I know it's hard. People probably think that's harsh. You choose and know that the people around you, your energy, your potential, your trajectory is limited by the people who are in your circle. It's either limited or it's propelled by the people in your circle.
And to me, that is like the most extreme form of self-love right there.
Yeah. Yeah. Time is short, energy is limited. And my circle has gotten so small. I used to have a lot of it. It's just gotten so tiny. And I used to be like, I ain't got no time for no friends, no new friends. No, I'm taking new friends, like new people who have come into my life in this season who serve me here. I still love and respect the people who got me through before. It,
Yeah.
but you need a new season. Sometimes new people can come in and be a part of your life at that time.
Ugh. Yvette, this has been so
Oh my
fantastic.
gosh. It
Thank
goes
you
so
so
fast.
much.
It's
It
been a
does.
joy.
Always, always, always. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your passion and your enthusiasm and your wisdom and
Yeah.
everything. It's just, again, just I said, as soon as I heard you speak, I was like, okay, we got to bring her in and share all of this. I really knew that our listeners would find a lot and learn a lot in what you had to say. So I hope all of you continue to follow her, check out her book and her upcoming book that we look forward to reading as well.
Yes.
And we are so glad that you all decided to join us today. Until next week, I hope you all keep asking, keep giving, and keep growing. Thank you for being here with us today. We appreciate each and every one of you. Bye.
Produced by Heartcast Media.